SoundPeats wants you to focus on the Kickstarter price of a DHRME friendly $69. But if we're being real,
Goedendag weer, DHRME. Dark homies reap more engagement. What? SoundPeats' attempt to do something different is its Opera series of buds. There's a 3 and we have the opera-05 here. And let's give it a fair opera-tunity.
we'll start superficially with the design and build quality. In terms of touch controls, these have touch controls, so no hard buttons but capacitive touch. But the control scheme out of the box is kind of perfect. A single tap on the right bud for volume up, and a single tap on the left bud for volume down. 2 taps for play or pause, and long pressing it will toggle the ANC mode. The case and buds are chunky though. Chunky in your pocket, chunky in your hand, chunky in your ears. But you'll only notice that if you even get as far as taking the buds out of the case. The struggle there is real, guys. There were times that I just gave up and started using another pair. These are the basics that should be done right.
Dude, it's pretty easy to take them out of the case. Just use your thumb to push them up instead of your index finger to push them down.
That's how intuitive these are. You need a 2 reviewer channel to figure it. Please subscribe. So anyway, while we might have exaggerated the size of the case, it's definitely not sleek, but it is pocketable. The buds are also IPX4, which means light rain and sweat is no big deal.
The most eye-catching part of the Opera 5 is the gold and black color combination. It makes for a very interesting look. There's even writing on the case saying, "Hear your imagination and designed by SoundPeats" on the buds. Now, not sure why SoundPeats would do this because we were scared to start using them. Trust me, nobody wants to hear my imagination, but they wanted to make these sub $100 buds look more expensive than they are. The shiny and rather gaudy gold isn't exactly our jam.
It's gold!
Yes, it's plastic gold.
Ooh.
But in terms of the all plastic build, they seem solid. They don't feel like they'll fall apart anytime soon.
These earbuds are unnaturally huge. Have we mentioned that yet? They're kind of comfortable because the ear tips are oval shaped, but overall you're getting a bit of a Frankenstein's monster aesthetic because of the serious chunks of these buds. So while these are IPX4 like we mentioned, we'd hesitate to recommend these for workouts.
The battery life on these depends on which codec you're using, like every other bud. SoundPeats says that on LDAC you get just under 5 hours, whereas on SBC it'll be around 7 hours. Those numbers are if you have ANC on, by the way, which is average, middle of the road. The case gets you 33 hours of charge in total, and that's not bad. Unfortunately, the case does not support wireless charging.
The Opera 5 is supported by the SoundPeats app, but you need to log in to be able to use it. Like, WTF, we get the whole if you're not paying for it, you must be the product thing. But even after spending up to $100, you still need to give away all of your data along with a host of permissions the app needs? Not cool, SoundPeats, not cool at all. Alright, rant over. The app did work well on Android, but on iOS it had some issues with connecting with the buds. But wow, is the app weak sauce? You can change the volume in it. Whoop-de-doo. There's also a 10-band EQ and a couple of presets you can choose from. You can change the ANC mode between full ANC, ANC off, and transparent mode. And finally, you can turn off the single tap volume control if you don't like it. We personally really like that you get volume control. You can't change any of the controls in the app though. There's no smart pause and you can't adjust the noise cancelling or transparency either.
The active noise cancelling on the Opera 05 is quite good and it beat the One More Evo in our testing at low and high end background noise. But it does not stack up against Edifier W240TN, which is still the best and cuts out noticeably more noise. It's Edifier, of course. In terms of transparency, it's just okay. Clearly worse than the One More and the Edifier. The SoundPeats also suppresses the lower end sounds unnecessarily more than the other buds.
Okay, does the Opera have perfect pitch? Well, to start with, these have to have the widest soundstage I remember testing in recent times. I guess that chunky bud size does add something to the sound. It's crazy how good cheap buds have gotten, and now we're seeing a dual driver setup at this price? Amazing, but all that spec talk aside, how do these actually sound? They're pretty good, with a but. In terms of sound, these are going for a relatively V-shaped sound, which you can change in the app. More on EQ in a bit. Volume-wise, these are definitely on the loud side. We thought 50% on the Samsung Z Flip 4 to be quite loud for our listening taste, which means there's a lot of headroom for you volume junkies out there.
Then the bass. The bass is the favorite part of these earbuds for us. It's punchy, rich, controlled, and overall I couldn't really ask much more at this price. Heck, at even maybe a few bucks more. Very nice bass. It's more mid-bass than sub-bass, but that would be nitpicking. There is sub-bass, so overall, we like it. The mids are a bit recessed out of the box, so vocals and guitars may seem to be in the distance, but that's where the 10-band EQ in the SoundPeats app comes in. It's not parametric though, so no Q factor control for you nerds out there, but it certainly helps bring the vocalist back into the limelight a little bit. Somehow we always felt there was a bit of a glassy edge to voices, which brings us to the treble. Here we were less impressed. Maybe this is just my treble sensitive ears, but there's some harsh notes here and there, and weirdly it could simultaneously end up sounding a bit thin at times. How do you do that? To be fair, this sounded worse on iOS than it did on Android over LDAC. The short sax solo in Sharon Jones and the Dap Kings' Midnight Rider, it came across a bit shrieky. I mean, who likes saxes anyway? We're anti-sax like that. But there's a glassy edge in the vocals, as we said, and even things like the snare drum, which leads us to believe that either the BA driver isn't great quality or the crossover isn't very well done. Whichever way it is, it's a shame because these are otherwise pretty good sounding earbuds. Do know that this is most audible in songs which have a lot of things going on in the treble range. In something more mellowed out like Love Is The Message by Yusuf Dais and Alpha Mist, this doesn't bother you at all, and all instruments are quite clear in the mix. We also thought that pulling back the 4K band in the custom EQ helped a bit with this as well, but it didn't fix it completely. So overall these buds sound good, but yeah, I'm not loving the treble. In terms of phone calls, we tested these out in pretty extreme conditions, pitted against the Edifier W240TN and the One More Evo. How did they go? Why don't you watch for yourself, or just skip the test using the chapters below and we'll tell you what we thought.
SoundPeats Opera 05, quiet conditions. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. One More Evo, quiet conditions. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Edifier, quiet conditions. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3.
Super windy day today. This is the SoundPeats Opera 05 in very windy conditions. Oh man. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Now we have the One More Evo in very windy conditions as well. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Now we have the Edifier also in pretty windy conditions. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Whoa, this thing is spinning like crazy. Okay, the SoundPeats Opera 05 in noisy conditions with cars passing by. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. So now we have the One More Evo in noisy conditions. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. So the Edifier in noisy and windy conditions. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. For noisy and quiet conditions, the SoundPeats did fairly well, especially when it was quiet. The voice appeared to be very clear and rich. No shocker there, thankfully. In noisy conditions, the noise of the cars whooshing by was cancelled out fairly well, and even though you could hear the noise, the speaker's voice wasn't really cancelled out as well. In the windy conditions, the SoundPeats did the poorest of them all, but it was a pretty extreme test, so we'll cut it some slack. But it just proves how good the One More and the Edifier are in that particular condition. And while we like the one-tap volume control for media playback, it can pose quite a risk if you're on an important call, because single tap is volume change and double tap is hang up. So the difference between the two is, well, you can do the math.
Does the Opera 5 score any points in the multi department? No, there's no multi-point, so one device at a time. You also cannot pull connection from a previously paired device. You have to put them into pairing mode by opening the case with the buds in it, holding down the button on the side, and then selecting the buds from the Bluetooth device list.
In terms of sustainability, SoundPeats...
Okay, we'll be honest here. SoundPeats wants you to focus on the Kickstarter price of a DHRME friendly $69. That's a pretty decent price for what you're getting, and if you can get it, it's a decent deal. But if we're being real, the price on Amazon is going to be $99, so not many of you will enjoy that $69. You shouldn't either.
At $99, are these worth it? Well, you're going to have to be a real SoundPeats fan to pay so much for these buds. I mean, sure, they sound good, they do calls well, have a unique design, but it's by no means a perfect product. There's the size issue, the fact that you don't get any bells and whistles like Multipoint or auto pause. The design is polarizing, the app does strictly the basics, and I mean, you could pick up any number of Samsung buds or the One More Evo or the Aero or the Soundcore Space A40 and sometimes even the Liberty 3 Pro at this price. And if my uncle were asking, I'd just suggest one of those or the Edifier W240TN, which is also a phenomenal product that so often goes under the radar. So yeah, this Opera has had some high notes.
And we've been DHRME. Namaste.
Namaste. Something like the Edifier WT240TN, blah, blah, blah. The Edifier WT240TN